Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane, and I am the director of the Ashland Public Library. And I'm so pleased to be here for this discussion about the appeals of paranormal romance with Maria Vale, Suleikha Snyder, Juliette Cross, and Holley Trent. Before we get started with a conversation, I just wanted to say a couple things. One is that we'd like to thank the Friends of the Ashland Public Library, which is a group that supports all of our programming, and we couldn't do it without them. I also want to let you know that you can buy signed books from any of our authors through Bank Square Books tonight or tomorrow. So you get really excited and have to have a signed book because it's really, the signed books are the best. So you can put questions in the chat anytime. Questions in the Q&A anytime. I'll be paying attention to that. You can also put any comments you want in the chat. And I see people are already saying, hey, everyone. And we'll be paying attention to that as well. So to get started, as I said, we have Maria Vale, Suleikha Snyder, Juliette Cross, and Holley Trent here. They are all fabulous paranormal writers. And I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves so that I don't go on, and then I'll have some questions for you. So I'm just going to start with Maria because you and I were the first ones to talk about this amazing panel.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for arranging this. It's wonderful. You know, it's some of my favorite writers. I write shifters who are first and foremost wolves, not so much humans. So it's not like they're humans who have this bestial thing inside them that they're trying to keep under wraps. They're really about pack and about land. And what I love about this is this, and I find in many different paranormal romances, is this is found family of some sort, whether it's a pack or the coven or whatever it is. There is this sort of group that isn't necessarily blood relations, might be, but it isn't necessarily. And this is one of the things I love about PNR, and this is one of the things I try to do in my own books as well.
Awesome. Holley?
Hi, I'm Holley Trent. I don't have a bio prepared because I'm just chaotic that way. And I usually rely on people on Twitter to explain me to other people. So this is very awkward. I do write across like the paranormal spectrum. And I think I started with like mutants and like shifters like back in 2012 or something like that. And that kind of moved on to witches and psychics and fairies, and even dabbling with aliens a little bit right now. So yeah, I write in a few different story worlds. So, you know, it keeps everything fresh and works well with the way my brain works, I guess.
Well, I'm really digging your sort of paranormal t-shirt. Juliette?
Yes. Hi, guys. I write paranormal romance, but actually I write contemporary as well now. None of it's out yet. I'll have a couple of contemporary releases coming out next year, but I have written across the spectrum, like Holley, angels, demons, vampires, werewolves. Most of it is half dragons. That was a fun series. The only thing I have not written is fae, and I actually had an idea today, and I was like, what am I doing to myself? Why are you thinking about new ideas? Because I have like my writing schedule booked for a while. I can't get to anything new. I'm sure y'all know what that's about. But yeah, so I love the paranormal. I'll never leave it entirely, but I do like to, like Holley said, keep things fresh and come up with new ideas and try something new.
Great, thank you. Suleikha?
I'm sort of, I guess, the newbie to paranormal romance in that I've been reading it my entire life, but I've really only started writing it recently, aside from the terrible vampire romances we all wrote when we were like 15. Oh, God. Yeah, that doesn't count. But I'm primarily a contemporary romance writer. Right now, I've got 2 books out this year, Big Bad Wolf and Pretty Little Lion, which are my PNRs. And yes, they have shifters, but they also have some characters from Hindu mythology. The book that's out this coming Tuesday, is Pretty Little Lion, and it stars an Apsara, which is kind of a nymph from Hindu mythology and other Eastern mythology. So that was kind of fun to kind of throw in there along with the lions and tigers and bears, oh my. and I've written some short stories too with like zombie romance. Like there was a zombie romance short story. There was some X-Men-esque kind of mutant stuff, but I'm still getting my feet wet in the genre.
Awesome. Well, your feet are quite soaking, I think, with the stories that you've been writing. And I follow you on Twitter, and I think you're super awesome. And Betsy B needs your lipstick, apparently.
Oh. Sephora. It's the Sephora cream lip stain, everyone, in I think raspberry sorbet, or I keep wanting to call it raspberry beret, but that's not what it's called. That's a Prince song.
Thank you for that tip. I'll be getting that myself.
Something sorbet, blackberry sorbet. Yeah.
Well, we'll all be running to Sephora tomorrow for sure. So I'm just gonna ask some questions, and obviously everybody can ask questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll just go. And then so I'm gonna sort of call on you, but if you guys have, just start conversing, that's completely fine too. So my first question really is, what drew you to writing paranormal romance, even if you've written other types of romance before? And my particular question around that is, did you have any authors or that were inspirational to you for writing paranormal? And I'm going to start with Holley this time.
Okay, well, I kind of skidded into paranormal kind of sideways, because when I got into the genre, I didn't actually know it was a thing. I started reading urban fantasy, and I found it unsatisfying because urban fantasy doesn't always have a satisfactory ending. And so from there, I started having like romances appear in my "why don't you try this" listings and like my library stuff. And I was like, okay, well, and I figured out that was what the missing thing was from the urban fantasies. It was that, optimistic ending. So that's kind of how I moved on from that harder like science fiction fantasy realm into things that were a little more hopeful. And as far as like inspirational like authors, I mean, it would be easier for me to say like who I decided to be the opposite of, so I won't name names. But
thank you.
So, but I can say that someone that I still really like, I can call an influence, was Rochelle Mead. I don't think she's writing anymore.
Oh,
and
gosh. Love her.
Yeah, I was so drawn into that series. Like I read everything that she had that was adult fiction, and I was so sad when she stopped writing there. So yeah, but she still, like, even after all these years, like had a really big impact on me wanting to go in this direction.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm still waiting on that sequel to Dark Swan. I was not satisfied at that ending. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I just kept, and she said she was eventually thinking about coming back, but she never did. Jeez, maybe one day.
Maybe.
It just so happens I was going to call on you next, Juliette.
So what drew me, I've always been, I mean, just from when I was very young, I loved The Hobbit. I love Lord of the Rings, like even the old cartoon movies. I was always drawn to that. Then as I got older, Harry Potter, I was into all of that with my own young children. And, when I started getting into paranormal romance, Nalini Singh has probably been the most influential for me. Besides the fact that she is an amazing, generous human being. She's just like the kindest soul. If you ever get the chance to meet her at a conference or something, she's so kind to everyone. Doesn't matter who you are. And but she just showed me exactly the kind of romance I wanted to write. I wanted those alpha protective males and those strong women and adventure and this sort of like magical element, and she has that, and I just love it. And so I would say she's probably my biggest influence, as a writer, for sure.
So it just so happens that I'm interviewing Nalini Singh on November 18th for a 1 hour, no holds barred Q&A.
Wow.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, so I can't wait. So enough about me. Suleikha?
Oh gosh. I mean, I've been kind of a sci-fi fantasy nerd from all the way back. My brother watched Star Wars, so I watched Star Wars. All the kids born in the late 70s, I feel like that was just what happened. And there was so much great fantasy, you know, in the 80s, like Willow and things like that. Right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
and then we got the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So we've been fed well, I think, as people in that. And then I was reading authors like Kim Harrison and Kelly Armstrong when I got a little older. And so I feel like there's a lot of that influence in my work. And Marjorie Liu, who started out on X-Men fan message boards like I did. And then she transitioned to writing romance for Avon. And it was kind of like X-Men, but Avon romances, which was awesome. And she also had shifters and, you know, people with powers and found family. And it's the Dirk and Steele series, and I love it to pieces. I like own half the books. And also, you know, she's an Asian American author. So, you know, she's probably my biggest inspiration in that regard. And I think my current books sort of, I think, are an homage in a way to Dirk and Steele and the X-Men.
Wow. I love Marjorie Liu. Maria.
Since I'm older than most people here, I mean, I grew up with a lot of fantasy, but also with things like I loved Poppy Z. Bright, Lost Souls, some of these darker, I mean, really gritty, bloody. I wouldn't call them paranormal romances, but there was sex and there was love. It was just the optimistic ending that was slightly askew. I love Kenneth Lee, you know, what was it called? Metal Lover and all those kinds of books. So I really liked the darker ones when I was younger, when everything seemed possible. Then as you get a little bit older, you kind of want to change that, you know, that infinite possibility. You start seeing, no, I'm good without having everybody die at the end.
Yeah.
I can really live with that. So I started to read, you know, a lot more. I don't know. I read a lot of, I read Janine Frost. I've been reading Ilona Andrews, and Nalini Singh, of course, is just is really wonderful as for the depth of imagination is just kind of astounding.
Yeah.
You know, how much she can bring in of different characters. She can create this world that stays within the parameters of her rules, but has sort of infinite variety within those parameters. So I'm really kind of blown away by that. But I just wanted to say the reason I love paranormal for myself is that to me, it allows you to sort of sit and look at what the normal is, what are humans doing, and to see sort of human behavior from a different perspective. And I just think that there's something about that that's so appealing.
What about Kresley Cole?
Immortals After Dark. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've never read.
I haven't either.
Any of those.
Oh my goodness!
It's one of those massive series, and you just like do I want to enter that now? It's like, you know,
I can't. Well, this is I have a really short attention span, and now that we've got all these authors like Kresley Cole and Nalini Singh, we've got that massive backlist. I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Unless you like maroon me on an island somewhere.
I think I've read 3, and they've all been great fun. I mean, I have to say, and I have not missed. They've not been the first ones, the second, you know, they've been arbitrary ones that have been suggested to me, and it's been fine.
No, you know what I loved about Kresley Cole's, her Immortals After Dark, there's a lot of snarky humor. And I think when I read some of those, I was like, oh, I like that sassy heroine. You know, I want to write somebody like her, you know, and I really like the banter that she uses, that kind of thing. So yeah, she's also a great, for sure.
I have a question for you, Juliette. You know, I know that you used to do, you know, you have done slightly rougher, grittier PNR, and have now moved in to a slightly, you know, sort of lighter tone.
Yes, right? Super light.
And well, not, you know, I'm just asking because it seems to me that right now, a lot of books contemporary romance, etc., are focused on a slightly lighter.
It's funny. I think so yeah, so this is true. I have mostly written darker, like, kidnappings, bloody, all this kind of crazy stuff, but it was actually, and it was before COVID, it was 2018. I had done some trade publishing, but I had wanted to go indie. I hadn't a lot of confidence in myself then, and so I just wasn't sure if I could do indie. I it's just one of those things, a personal thing, like could I be in control of all of that, and would I just flop? All those doubts that go into your head when you're making these bigger moves. And I had tried several publishers and things went okay, but I was never where I wanted to be, and felt like I was battling more, with what I wanted for my branding and that kind of thing. And anyway, I just decided, I want to do something totally different. I am a Louisiana native, and New Orleans is kind of a second home for me. And I love New Orleans. Like I've spent half my life down there. My husband and I were dating. We were there every weekend. And there's a lot of flavor and culture that is never seen in a lot of books. Everybody writes about the French Quarter. I mean, I even have a demon series set mostly in the French Quarter myself, but nobody looks at like the sort of the lower Garden District. It's very like Bohemian, Paris-esque feel to it. It's almost like they have their own little neighborhoods, farther down in the Garden District. So I decided I wanted something light. I wanted something that was really funny. And that was terrifying, to write humor and call myself a funny, I remember my niece, who I do a podcast with for Smart Women Read Romance, she sent me this article by Dorinda Jones, who also is an amazing author.
Amazing.
And Dorinda Jones had written this article on how to write with humor. It's basically just like some steps, like some things you can do. And I internalized all of that. I was like, let me see if I can do it. And I totally changed my branding. If you've seen any of my books, they are not anything like what my past ones are. They're not illustrated covers, but they're the more hand-drawn, font-centric, that kind of thing, elements to it. And I took a chance, and it has made all the difference in the world. I think it's funny that I did it before COVID. I made that decision, and I thought about the world, and I actually took notes for probably a year before I even started book one, so I could really get the world in my head and the characters and how they all tied together. And then COVID hit, and then I was writing Don't Hex and Drive in the middle of the quarantine where we're all at home. And that was hard, but it was a good escape for me to kind of forget about everything that was going on and go into this world that was funny and had this, talk about found family. We do have 6 sisters, but all of the people around them are their found family, in this little neighborhood. And I've so enjoyed writing something just light, funny, super sexy, and with some magic, So.
Now, Holley, that kind of describes your books as well. You have a strong thread of humor that go through your various series, and you've been rocking it in indie for a while, which I think is amazing. And how was your journey in indie and with writing, lighter books, kind of differ or similar to Juliette's?
I'm kind of a mood writer. So like what you see at any given time is like, where my head was 6 months ago. So I'm not really doing it on purpose. I can say that when I first started and I was coming in kind of with like those kind of rom-com-y, chick flicky beats still in my head, and it was a little more slapstick. Those first few books that I had out there, they're no longer available now, but I mean, my sense of humor is like, I think I just got, braver about, showing what my actual humor was. So those early books, like, yeah, they're funny. They're my jokes. It's my words. And, it's all representative, but it's just like, I can't stand by this anymore because it's not, yeah, but
So like dad humor, your version of dad humor or something?
Yeah. And it's the absolute worst at this point. But Because I grew up watching like Britcoms, so like that was like kind of like my kind of comedic rhythm, and it kind of still is. It's just a little darker now, but yeah, that's just kind of natural for me. But so what you see is like, I'm not really trying to be that way. That's just like, that's what's popping into my head at that time. And like my editors just leave it in there. So it's like, they don't rein me in, and I say, okay, well, 50% of the blame of this is going to be for you.
Yeah, I can't even imagine like you saying that Juliette, that you like took notes and learned how to write funny. I'm like, I'm kind of with Holley that way. I just do it. Like, it just kind of, the jokes come out and the books
Well, they do now. I think before I started, I was just nervous, like, I mean, I've had bantery characters even in my other series, but when my goal was, okay, I want this to be funny, fortunately it worked out. I didn't have to try that hard for book 1 because the hero is a werewolf who can't shift, and so his wolf has come into the forefront, and all he talks about is sex and violence, and the hero happens to be a nice guy, so it's like kind of a Venom kind of effect. So it actually it definitely helped me to sort of think about writing, but I think, like you said, you kind of just start to let yourself go, and then it just kind of comes out, and I hope it's funny, I'm just like, I hope it is, like, I don't know.
Do you all laugh while you're writing your own jokes?
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, right? You have to make yourself laugh.
Yeah.
You do.
But I think I'm a dork, so I don't know, like, is my humor the same as other people? Like, I don't know.
The question is for me, because the jokes often are refined in subsequent, so the first thing I have like an outline for the joke, and the timing doesn't actually show up until like the fourth revision, at which point I'm like, is that really funny? Or was I just not thinking straight?
So I do want to ask what you all think are the appeals. Why do people like paranormal? Obviously it's been around for a long time. I think of Mary Shelley and the anti-hero and the vampire Lestat, back in the 80s, and then it exploded. And what do you think happened? And I'm going to start with Suleikha for that.
Oh gosh. I think paranormal and horror and other things like that have always been ways for people to explore their fears and the unknown, and in a safe way, because it's fictional. And also I think paranormal romance and fantasy and sci-fi can hold up mirrors to humanity, right, as to what we are doing. Like Maria said earlier, it's a good way to look at humanity through a different lens. And of course, it's also been a metaphor for marginalization, and I made the example the other day of Lupin in the Harry Potter series,
right.
And not that I hate bringing up the Harry Potter series these days, but it's a well-known example. But so vampires and werewolves were sort of stand-ins for people with mental illnesses or women with hysteria or what have you. It was always ways to work out the other. And I think one of the fun parts for me about that now is being able to put that other alongside my actual characters of color. Like, it doesn't have to be a metaphor anymore. I'm going ahead and putting they are the vampires.
Yeah,
they
you
are
have
the
intersectionality now.
Yeah.
Maria?
Well, as I said, I think for me, I think it's mostly about seeing humanity through a different lens, and to be able to create a world in which maybe some of the worst parts of humanity are fixed. I love seeing a world in which found family, for example, or where you have a tightly bound community, which is not, sometimes it's very tribal, which I don't like so much, but is caring for each other, is kind to each other. And so for me, that is very important. I think it is true that we work out fears, but I think we also try to work out what could be best about ourselves and what could be best about each other in this. It's Yeah, I think that there's a lot that can be done that you don't have to worry about the strictures of that's not possible. In a contemporary romance, you really have to say, okay, why are these people not getting together? Because they're not communicating. That is not a trope that I particularly like. So in a paranormal romance, you can actually create something that is a real stumbling block
Mhm.
to love for whatever reason, whether they're two different, sort of covens, they're two different packs, whatever it is. And then you can go from there. And I find that a lot of fun.
Mhm. Thank you. Holly?
Yeah, I think it comes down to just like, you get more plot and you get more external conflict. So especially like, if you consumed a lot of media, growing up where it was very, plot heavy and you had those cliffhangers every day at the end of your soap opera, you're going to come into, books looking for a different kind of reading experience. And I think paranormal kind of hits a lot of those buttons. And not so much the category style paranormals where it's still focused on that relationship issue and the external stuff is kept to a minimum, but I like to set a bunch of different fires in my stories and make these characters really struggle to get themselves together. And I think that a certain kind of reader really likes that experience. They like to be kind of yanked around a little bit. And I think at the end it's a little more satisfying because it's like, ooh, that was something that I just went through, but okay, what about this sequel bait that you put in here? What about these two characters? So I think it's kind of just super fulfilling to have all of that, action going on.
Mm-hmm. Juliette?
Yeah, I agree with everything they said. Also, I think paranormal and fantasy is like pure escapism at its best, and when, either, you work a regular job and you're tired of just like the mundane, or you don't want to watch the news or whatever, just to escape to a paranormal sometimes it's fun, it's just pure fun. And also, like Maria said, that idea of endless possibilities, I think that's the one that I love the most. I love when I'm starting a new book, or even a new world, and it's like, okay, what could possibly happen, and it's just as far as your imagination can go. And so I think the child in me, but maybe I'm still a child, I don't know, but it just, I really love letting my imagination run wild, and chasing like the fun stuff. And also it's just exciting. You never know when a vampire is going to jump out or whatever is going to happen. And it's just fun,
Yeah, as a reader, I would absolutely agree with that. But I want to go back to something Suleikha had said about how, it's about others, and it's, you've integrated it with your, the different races that you write about otherwise. And I wonder if you feel like it's easier to think about some of those really difficult topics when you're talking about vampires and werewolves, and as opposed to like what your neighbors
Right.
that you'd be thinking about in a contemporary romance.
For sure. I mean, easier for me as a writer? No, not necessarily, because I'm obviously aware of what I'm doing, regardless of what they are, if they're a werewolf or a human. But I think for readers, it's more palatable when it comes through the lens, of vampirism or werewolves or, a coven of a group of Vikings. It's easier. I don't know. It's like a spoonful of sugar, I guess. There's that level of distance where you can be like, all right, they're talking about discrimination or
Right.
Anti-vaxxers or whatever, but it's all couched in something that's not us. So that makes it less accusatory, maybe, for the reader. So they can learn these things and process these things while it's not about them.
I think that's a very good point. More palatable. I like that.
Right.
I think that's a good word.
Do you think it makes it too easy for us?
I mean, I feel like every author does it differently too, though, and every reader is different. So what might be easy for one author and one reader might be difficult for another, and that's the great thing about having so much choice in paranormal authors and series, and you can always move around until you find the person whose voice works for you. I know a lot of people have, they either really like my two experiments in paranormal or they don't, because I actually do tackle a lot of political stuff head on and just talk about it. And some people just don't want that. They want the fun. They want the escapism, right? They don't want to hear about our current political state as told through the eyes of a wolf shifter.
That's what I think. I think that's one of the interesting things is that all four of us sort of have a slightly different take on things.
Yeah.
You know, yours is, you don't pull any punches, Suleikha. I really don't, I don't see that anywhere, even though it is shifters.
Right.
And you know, Juliette's is wonderful. It's a very sort of inclusive world, but it's a much lighter touch for, and Holley, I feel like you, for me, you touch a lot of emotional issues in your books. I mean, sort of very personal emotional issues. Maybe that's just the books that I've happened to read. But so I feel like there is even within, say, this small slice of romance, there are very, very different tones.
Yeah.
Holley, I see you nodding your head too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that readers are very good at, you know, like you're saying about whether or not we're making it too easy for them. I think that, and I've noticed this, and you know, at least with like my sci-fi series, like some people, like by chapter 3, they could tell it was being allegorical, and then there's some like they never ever pick up on it. So it's like, you know, you have to kind of decide, like, you know, if you're going to keep those layers in there, and you know, feed it to the people who really want it, and you know, if other people, you know, during their second read, they find it, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what you were doing there. But you know, yeah, I mean, I like doing that. I like playing with it. You know, and sometimes I will beat you over the head. I'll be very direct, but sometimes I like, you know, I'm going to sneak it in there so that, you know, maybe you understand that maybe your thinking was a little bit polluted on something, and you read about it, you know, through fiction, and, you know, had some, you know, deep thoughts, and, you know, I'm happy to help people, you know, have those experiences. So, yeah.
Juliette, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I was actually thinking about, I love the way Maria said that, because I agree. And I think, for example, in the Stay a Spell series, we have witches, vampires, werewolves, and grim reapers. And the werewolves are discriminated against because they're considered monsters, you know, because they can't control themselves and tend to, you know, act out in anger and all these things. So they don't even have their own covens yet right now. The others are very organized. The Grimms are actually totally on their own. They shun everyone because they just think they're better than everybody. Well, they kind of are better than everybody else, but no, I'm kidding. But, and so it's interesting because in Witches Get Stitches, the whole idea was about how the werewolves are never given their fair shot, and they are discriminated against. And the heroine, by the end of the book, the whole plot has been about how she's like, this is wrong. We've got to do something about this. You know, we've got to change this. And that's actually going to be a thread that ties into some future books. You know, it's not just going to, oh, yay, werewolves are all, you know, great now. It's kind of an ongoing problem. And I think that reflects our society. It's an ongoing problem and needs to continue to be worked upon. And so I feel like I'm, you know, I am touching on some of those topics, but I'm probably not as direct as Holley, you know, and maybe it's not as outright. It's funny though, I will have readers that'll DM me and like, wow, I love the way you kind of talked about, you know, discrimination in this way, and kind of like gave us a little dose in, you know, that kind of thing. But, so it's interesting. I think it's fascinating. And I think that's what's great about the paranormal world and paranormal authors is we all have our own experiences to bring. We all have our own, you know, insight into these issues. And I think it's wonderful that we're all, you know, addressing them in our own way, you know?
Yeah, I think back to two authors, Kresley Cole again, and Laura Lee. Have you read her Breeds series?
Oh yeah, Laura Lee.
Yeah. And so in those ones, the humans were actually the monstrous in the sense that they found ways to kill the creatures. You know, the immortals after dark, they found a way to kill them. And then in the breeds, they just tortured them. And it was really hard to read. And that was a different perspective for me on that humans are the ones that are, it was like turned around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me, this was the beginning of it, was that, we always assume, because we are human, that humans are ipso facto good or humane.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody thinks that anymore, Maria. Jig is up.
But the PNR world often has the human form as being the better one, the rational one, the kinder one, and then the animal form as being much more brutal.
Right.
And I just felt that was not fair, not true. And that's what that's what I really wanted to change around, because if you're a wolf living in the United States today, you are being shot.
Yeah.
That is it. So, I can't say that I feel like the humans are always the most humane.
Oh, I
They
agree.
are.
And animal nature is much kinder than humanity. I mean, humans are the worst monsters we have, quite frankly.
Well, I have a werewolf in the 5th volume, and I call them I don't ever call them werewolves. I call him a werewolf because he's like something called the Ulfheithner, which is like a berserker. And he's called a werewolf because he is a man wolf. He is a wolf who is capable of killing his own. And for them, that is just a horrible thing. Men kill their own all the time. But for wolves, this is just a horrible concept.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
What book is that now?
It's the 5th volume. It's not coming out until July.
Fine, whatever. I'll wait.
Check that out.
I love Anne Bishop's other series for that sort of too. She does a great job of like humans being the ones that are weird,
right.
and the others being the ones that are smart and sharp and keeping society together.
Right.
While not letting go of their scary natures. Like they're very much animals and vampires and things. Like their hierarchy is not like human hierarchy.
But they care for each other.
They care for each other, yes.
Caring for each other
Exactly.
in those books and it manifests itself in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah. So I love seeing that in paranormal, where it's flipped, where it's the humans who are the monstrous ones always.
Right. I mean, there's a romance that I have not seen. Maybe you guys have heard, but I would love to see a romance of Frankenstein's monster.
Oh.
Because to me, that's of course not a horror story. It's a tragedy.
It is.
And I would love to see some romance with the creature.
Yeah, I feel like they tried to do that a little in Penny Dreadful, but he just came off as like an incel who hangs out on Reddit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, good Lord, like dial it down, dude. So I would love to see it handled better.
Okay, so you didn't see Young Frankenstein?
Young Frankenstein with Gene Wilder? Yes.
Frankenstein. Frankenstein.
Brings back my college days.
Oh, the best.
Definitely dating ourselves here.
Boyfriend.
Yes. Thanks, Holly.
And of course, Madeline Kahn with.
Oh God, I love Madeline Kahn. But
since I'm talking about that, I do have to ask you, and people who have been in my programs know that I always ask the Shape of Water question: is if you have a creature that's going to have sex with somebody, how are they going to have sex with somebody? Have you ever had to like figure that out?
Oh, come on, Holly. You're the alien romance girl. Okay, I want to say something about alien romances before Holly speaks, because she's going to have to speak to this.
Oh my gosh.
First of all, I love alien romances. I'm currently addicted. I'm actually reading another new Ruby Dixon right now, and it is my newest obsession. But my niece Jessa and I, who do a podcast, we just recently did one of the Horde King books on our review. And we were talking about, because one of the questions was, why is everybody so obsessed with these alien romances? And I was like, you know why? Because their penises are built for female pleasure. Their entire bodies are built for female pleasure. And they're all like alpha cinnamon rolls, although I don't know what Hollies are like, but I'm going to get these Hollies because I love these books. But I just think it is hilarious that, I don't know, I love that they're so different. They're so anatomically different. Currently, the one I'm reading, the alien he has purple gray skin and he has tusks. So I'm like, so they're not going to kiss? So like, that's my biggest question. They're not going to get to kiss? Like, I kind of want to know that.
Still kiss somebody with tusks, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's got a giant maw of a mouth, but I guess, well, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Imagination went somewhere else. So Holly, please tell us about the anatomy of your alien.
Okay, listen, I don't want to think that hard about, the physics of, people getting together. So for the most part, I'm going to keep it very familiar for right now.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point in the future, maybe there'll be like a side story where I experiment a little bit with that. But right now, like I said, with my ADHD brain, what you're going to get is, insert, peg A into slot B, and that's
a fun peg. But yeah, I do think that a lot of the alien romances, they're just like 7 foot tall blue guys with big dicks. And I'm like, okay, how is that at all different from just being a regular white dude with a big dick?
Right.
Sorry. And which is why I want to bring up Anna Gire's Strange Love, where he's an actual alien with like an exoskeleton and like different genitalia, different sexual organs. They're like these slits in his abdomen, like in his thorax, that are erogenous zones. Yeah. So you have to sort of like feel up his erogenous zones to get him off. Like it's really, she really put some thought into this. It's fascinating. Like, so yeah, definitely pick up Strange Love if you want to read like how a non-penis alien creature.
All right, I'm gonna check this out.
And there's a talking dog too. Yes.
Yeah. But there was a R. Smith. I don't know if anybody's read.
Oh yeah, those are really dark, really dark.
I actually really. This is sort of the poppy seed bright in me coming through. Land of the Beautiful Dead is one of my favorites, but also she wrote something called Cottonwood, which has an insect alien race that's stranded on the United States.
I can't do that. No.
And
I can't do that.
And so, but this is a lot like Anna Gire. This is much. And she also did The Last Hour of Gan, which is a lizard creature, and again, very different anatomically. So
my brain is just like going off. I'm like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I just had another thought and then I forgot what it was. It was something related to alien sex, and now it's gone.
Bring it back. Would
it have anything to do with the product of that encounter, that sometimes gets used as a, controlled substance in some series?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Not my series.
Yeah, not your series. Sometimes it's like the sex pollen,
Exoskeletons. I just don't know how you handle exoskeletons.
Right? It'd be kind of like itchy. Is it like?
Y'all, I can't go there. No.
Chitin, it's like,
like
I don't
somebody
have scales. Scales are fine by me. Like I can handle scales because, yeah, that's cool. But no, this insect thing, I can't go there. Holly, do you have any insect guys?
I don't know. I just
okay, good.
Let me hear. Okay, good. Do you know the Predator? The Alien versus Predator franchise?
Oh yeah.
The movie. Yeah. Is it Sanaa Lathan who's in it? And she and the Predator have like ridiculous chemistry. And there's like fanfic about them on like all the archives. Their characters. Her and the Predator.
Someone, Alyssa Cole or someone was either threatening to write some, was it Predator fanfic or?
Yeah, I feel
like the Predator. He's like hot looking.
Yeah. And the Predators aren't exactly hotties, right? They're not.
I think they're badass looking, but they're humanoid looking. But again, no kissing because there's like all these
exactly. I was just going to say.
No kissing.
The tusks are much easier, I think, than that. That could do some serious damage.
You know,
Maybe the
I mean,
tusks
I
are used for
come
something else.
Thank you, Mina. There you go.
Now that's going to be
Lifelong
stuck in
romance
mind for
reader.
the end.
Oh man.
Maybe we should leave there. I don't know. No, I'm not done yet.
I mean, although it is interesting because we are seeing people now in mainstream romance who really aren't paranormal romance readers, so we're all obsessed with, I'm going to use the F-bomb here, monster fucking, right? All of a sudden,
Yes.
everyone's talking about it. And I feel like the paranormal authors are just sitting here going, yeah, we've been doing this the whole time,
Yeah.
I know. Welcome to our world.
right?
Welcome.
Like, ooh, a gargoyle, woo, yeah, and
Oh yeah, I've read those. Oh,
Right,
all of them
same.
except the last one, Mary Jane. Yeah, I've read them.
What are the advantages of the
Suckers.
gargoyle? Are they just very
Thank you,
hard?
Janelle. She's telling it. That is so funny. I have not read Laurel K. Hamilton's though.
oh,
I'll have to
I
check
feel
that one
like-
out.
Oh, tusks and octopus.
oh,
It-
that's
it's a
right.
wild
The
ride.
one where Mary Gentry was
Yeah.
like just banging all the fairies because she needed to have a fairy child, and so she was just having fairy orgies.
There you go.
That was
There you go.
That was an interesting series.
Yeah. And the fact that like we consumed every single one of those books, like, oh my God, what's gonna happen next? Yeah, that says a lot about us, I think. You know?
I know, right? That we've all read these things. Like,
Oh my gosh. So this came up for me when I read a book that the main character was a merman,
Mhm.
and he wasn't a shapeshifter, so
Yeah. So what's happening there?
I mean, I assume that it's kind of like with the Shape of Water guy, where it just kind of comes out of hiding.
Yeah.
You
Just
know,
kind of slit opens and there it comes and then it goes back in. Must be.
Isn't there one that was really popular for a while called Romancing the Kraken, or there was some Kraken
I
theme.
remember. Yeah, the
Yeah, I have a
dragon one
vague
going
recollection
around.
of that. Yeah.
Right, and I think, but you know, the when you've got suckers, you've got so many suckers, you have lots of
See,
possibilities.
that's the weird part. That's where, like, I wouldn't want like the tentacle sucking part on the skin, like the hickeys that would leave.
Really? That's the
Can you
truth.
imagine?
You know,
Riddled with purple
we're all
marks.
working from home now, so it's fine. You know, who's gonna see it? It's okay.
No one's gonna see your tentacle hickeys. It's fine.
I had no idea this question would bring up so much conversation.
Well, you said aliens and there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you. I've had the best time with this conversation. So given that, what do you think is like the sort of craziest creature that you've ever written,
Oh,
and why?
let me think about that.
I'll give you a
Oh my
second.
gosh. Well,
Hold on, let me pull up my backlist real quick.
craziest?
Like, so yeah, the most out there.
Not particularly out there, but in one of my short stories, the one that's kind of X-Men inspired, it's kind of inspired by Gambit and Rogue, I gave her, she's a poison girl, which is another character from Hindu mythology, Bishkonna, which were women who were trained up as assassins. They were fed poisons from birth, so their entire skin is poisonous, and if you touch them, you die. And so I gave her that ability, which is really kind of inconvenient for falling in love, you know? So that was, it was an interesting thing to write, where I'm like, wait, how are they going to kiss, to go back to the kissing?
Right, so it's just like a full body condom or something?
More or less, right? Like, actually the guy, her love interest is kind of like, he went to some mystical mountain and figured out some serum she could take, and he's totally okay with making out with her if it means he'll die. You know?
Right.
Because he loves her so much, he's willing to risk it all. So that's probably the nuttiest risk I've taken in the paranormal realm, where I'm like making her literally poisonous to the touch.
Holly, you go next because I'm not going after you because I know you've got like some crazy shit.
Yeah, I am looking at my series list on my website right now. It's just like, you know, some of it is, you know, I don't remember writing, but okay. Like the past couple of years have just been like one, you know, black hole in my brain basically. But you know, I've written Fallen Angels, I've written Incubi, so it's like
Oh,
I
nice.
don't know, what do other people consider strange? It's just like, you know, this is, I don't know, it all seems normal to me at this point, but you know, I've been writing in these worlds for so long, it's just like, I don't want to call my characters weird, but I guess some of them are. So, you know.
Different.
I
Yeah.
like the fact that you managed to cross over like thousands-year-old Vikings with like Fae.
you know?
And
Yes.
you made it work.
Look, that whole series, that whole like story world, it was, you know, a fever dream basically, where it's just like I woke up one morning and I was like, what was that? you know, like 10 drafts later.
You
Okay,
only pick
I
up
need
the
that series.
the Afotama Legacy series by Holley. It's like crack. It's so good. We all like, I swear, pre-pandemic, we all went through a summer of just reading that entire series, and then she just wrote the latest book in it. And it's
So I'm gonna be hitting Holly's backlist after we click off here, guys.
she's a great break in case of emergency author, because it's just total feel good, like sexy times and world building.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
Probably, I would say for me, probably the dragon hybrid race. They're I call them Morgans. I actually just kind of borrowed Gorgon from mythology and put the M on them, because it started with, in this world in ancient times, there were dragon shifters and humans living alongside each other, and they never like mixed and mingled. But of course, a human princess fell in love with a dragon king, and they married, and her name was Morga. And so their first child was a mixed breed he was a Morgan. So he had the dragon wings, and the dragons are all different clans, have different magical powers. So some are dream walkers, you know, that kind of thing. Some are like siren, like they have siren song gifts and that kind of stuff. So probably them, just because each clan kind of has a different gift, and they don't lose their wings. Like, they're not shifters. They are permanently half dragon, and they're like 7 feet tall, and you know, so of course they all fall in love with human women.
They all have to sleep in a California king.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they have huge beds.
Huge beds.
For their wings, and showers. Like, they need like big showers.
Right.
The logistics of that, like, how do they shower with those wings?
Oh yeah, they're ginormous. Everything is supersized. Everything. Everything.
Good to know. Maria?
It's a given.
I mean, I don't think in terms of the physical aspect in particular, but I'm writing a book about the angel of death, but he's not like sort of the typical angel of death. He's a sort of chronic innocent, because he has been dropped in, you know, he comes in, picks up a soul and leaves. He's got too much work to do. He can't linger. And so he's never actually had the experience of life. So for him, death is just a series of appointments. You know, it's been a series of appointments, and he meets this girl, and for reasons that are too complicated to go into, he actually is sort of sucked into the passage of time and into experience, and to learning what life is like. And he screws up royally constantly. But I think there's something about that which is just, it's not, the angel of death is supposed to be this sort of dark character, and he's actually small, slightly weird looking. And so I think
that does sound really cool, actually. I love it.
So like meet Joe Black, but if like Rick Moranis was in it instead of
Yeah,
Brad Pitt.
it's like Hot Nerd. Is he like Hot Nerd?
No shade to
Is that
Rick
what we're
Moranis,
doing here?
though, yeah.
Yeah, I can go for that.
That's funny. But it's interesting you said that, Maria, because I read all of the Christine Feehan books, you know, the vampire series, and they're not crazy characters, but their stories, their backstories are crazy.
Right.
So
Right. And I think that's often the case. You can make a character who, this is the other wonderful thing about paranormal, is frequently we have characters that live a long time. And one of the parts of living a long time is you have a lot of experiences, some of which are going to be unpleasant. So you can really work on these backstories. You can give them these incredibly rich backstories. And that's one of the other things that I really love about paranormal. I love about reading paranormal.
Absolutely.
Oh, that reminds me of a Maggie Shane book that I love bringing up from her Wings in the Night series, where one of her vampires was actually Gilgamesh. Yes. He's like a magician named Damien, and he's an illusionist.
Right.
but secretly he's actually the like Gilgamesh, and he's been alive since ancient Sumeria. And I was like, wow, way to swing for the fences with
Yeah,
that.
Like
one.
that's
Right.
really old.
Taking it way
That's
back.
super
Yeah.
old. I was really impressed.
But the fun thing about that is, does that make them appreciate life more? Or
Or
does
less.
it make them,
Apathy.
yeah,
Like, do you get apathetic
ennui.
about humanity?
exactly.
And I think that a lot of those books show that they become they lose their empathy.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You know,
They
they're not
lose
just
some of their humanity.
But
Right.
then they fall in love, and that teaches them about empathy again.
Exactly, Suleikha, exactly. It's all her, that woman
Or that man.
or man, exactly.
Well, I think Maria said you read Janine Frost, and you know she had that character Menkeres, who's
Right.
also old, and the woman, you know, saved him from himself.
Well,
I do have to put in a plug for Molly Harper.
Oh,
You know, if you read her, if you like snarky, the Vampire Librarian series, everybody, you have to read that.
You had me at Vampire Librarian.
Right, exactly. Don't even need the snarky.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just put a plug in there. But we're about out of time, but I wanted to ask you what's next for you. What are we expecting from you in the next year? And I'll just start from the beginning and ask Maria.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to finish off my story about the Angel of Death and the waitress from Hooters. And then after that, I am doing a book, which is the first of a trilogy that I'm going to try to pitch, which is essentially a dryad who is Yggdrasil. So Holly, you'll know Yggdrasil. And Vidar, who is the god of retribution. And so it's a sort of beginning of a trilogy that ends with the killing of the gods.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. Who wants to follow that? I'm calling anybody.
I think I'm drifting away from paranormal for a bit after this, going back to contemporary just to change things up because I can't stick in one genre for long. I hop around. So I think there's some rom-com coming from me soon for those of you who enjoyed like Take a Chance on Me and that kind of thing. I think I'm going to head back in that direction and then probably circle back to paranormal after that.
It's a great thing about being a writer, right? You just keep on writing.
Yep.
Juliette?
Yeah, so I'll have 2 paranormal romances and 2 contemporaries this year. Always practice safe hex, book 4 in the Stay Spell series with my my first Grim Reaper. And they've all been secretive, so it's going to be fun kind of finally letting everybody know what they're all about. And then I have my Smarty Pants romance book, Parks and Provocation, comes out in March, which I'm really excited about. Such a phenomenal team of authors. I just love collaborating with them. Kilby Bleeds just had her release of the first one, book 1 in the Heroes, the Green Valley Heroes series. Forest for the Trees, sorry, just had to say that. And it's wonderful if you guys like the rom-commy stuff. And then I have my first contemporary of my own series coming out, which I haven't even announced the title, so I'll go ahead and tell it. It's Bright Like Wildfire. And it'll be small town romance set in Louisiana in a small Cajun town on a bayou. Go figure, that's where I live. So very close to home. And then I'll have, which I also haven't announced this yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I will have book 5, Resting Witch Face, and Stay Spell will come out.
You're killing me, Juliette. These are great.
That will be out on Halloween.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, excited.
That is amazing. Do you have 5 books coming out in the next year or 4?
4, yeah.
Wow. 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been I'm just pushing myself till I don't sleep at all, but you guys know how that is.
You do have a red carpet behind you. You could just lie down.
It's all glamour. This is all I do all day long. The words just flow off the page, perfect, no editing whatsoever.
No revision.
That's
No,
bullshit,
that would be so nice.
So Holly, what's next for you?
Oh, Well, I stealth drop books lately. I don't really announce anything until it happens, but I know for certain that the last of the Norseman Wolves novellas is either going to be out this weekend or next weekend. So that's coming. I have a Jack Saga sci-fi romance book that is my work in progress right now. That'll be out probably in Q1. I have a mermaid book, actually. If you want to talk about mermaid anatomy, we can do that later. But anyway, I have a mermaid book.
A little slit
Yeah,
opening.
you think we're going to do that later?
I will need to discuss.
We can discuss, but no, actually, it's right now on Kindle Vella, which is it's a very Amazon product. I'll put it that way. But anyway, it'll be
I'm
coming out.
doing that too with you, Holly, by the way.
Yeah, it's so
Interesting. We'll just leave it there.
Yeah. So that'll be coming out soon, and that'll be launching as the first in series as it's a romance novel. Yeah, so that'll be coming out. It's late, y'all. I'm sorry. I've been up since like 5:45.
It's
But
okay.
yeah, so that'll be coming out. 4-book series about 4 siblings from Eastern North Carolina. So they're mermaids, and they didn't know their mother was the mermaid queen, and then she vanished. But anyway,
That happens.
it does, as you do. And at some point, I guess I'll write a contemporary again. And when it happens, it'll happen, and it'll drop into people's newsletters, and that's the way I do things lately. I've got nothing under contract, so it's like I just do. I do as Holly does at this point, and
Yeah.
get used to the chaos, because that's the way it'll be for a while.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the indie thing. I like setting my own deadlines, though. I have to say, I'm really enjoying, like you said, like if I want to publish something, I can. If I don't, well, I'm not, and I'll wait.
Awesome. Well, I'm really looking forward to all of these books, and I'm sure our attendees are as well. So thank you so much for this just amazingly interesting part. And, like we talked about some serious things and we had some good laughs, and I really appreciate that, because I think that's sort of the heart of romance, is that you do have every experience, and if you can have it all in one book, it's even better.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
Thank you
much.
everyone for coming showing up and hey, I've been reading all the comments in the margins.
Yeah, it's so
Thank you,
nice to
guys.
see everyone
Thank
waving
you.
and hello Chicago. I saw someone from Chicago in there earlier.
I think that was Janelle.
Thank you all. Thank you all for this. This was so much fun. P.S.
Yeah, it
Pretty Little
was.
Lion comes out on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Oh yes.
So again,